like to call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township.
Recording in progress.
We're all set. Okay. I would note that all commissioners are here. The board did meet in executive session to discuss matters of personnel and real estate. We will begin with a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence. And I would ask that President of the School Board, Mr. Jesse Rawls, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Sorry to catch you off guard, Mr. Rawls.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, sorry.
I'm a little hard
The
to hear.
acoustics in this room are horrible.
I got it.
Petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight? Yes, sir. Please feel free.
Well, come up here?
Yep.
Well, I just, the reason I'm here, I'm going to be a representative from the school board, and so I'll be attending your meetings. Is it on?
Yep.
Can I start on here?
Yep.
Jesse Rawls, Senior, Susquehanna Township School Board. Resident since 1980, can you believe that? Once served up there, but now I serve where I can make more money with the school board, so I'm there. but
Correct that from the minutes, please.
I'm going to be the representative from the school board, so I'll be attending the meetings probably the fourth Thursday every month. So
Awesome.
anything I can help you with, and I know I'll be looking to you guys for some service, and we can work together on a lot of things. I appreciate it. All right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to the partnership with you.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else wish to address the board? Okay, hearing none. Approval of minutes, January 11th.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the January 11th meeting minutes.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hisro. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sanderson. Comments or suggestions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Traffic studies. First up is Lincolnstown Road and Crooked Hill Road traffic study report. Mr. Grimley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, commissioners. So, the Lincolnstown Road and Crooked Hill traffic study, HRG was requested to do a traffic study regarding the traffic signal timing at Lincolnstown Road and Crooked Hill, specific to what was perceived to be an extended time of wait at the crossing of Lincolnstown Road at Crooked Hill. Our traffic engineers did review the signal timing, found it to be the lights functioning properly in accordance with the permit. The typical programmed wait for that intersection crossing Lincolnstown Road is 120 seconds to 2 minutes and 150 seconds during PM rush. So waiting times can be up to 2 minutes, but average was 60 seconds. So I guess kind of just depends on when you hit the light. They're programmed, they're not adaptive at this point, so they're programmed for a certain period of time, and that's all coordinated with a series of 12 traffic lights along the Route 39 corridor. Upcoming in 2025, they'll be switching over to the adaptive system, which can instantaneously kind of adjust the traffic signal timing through the corridor. So there is potential that it may not decrease it on an extended basis, but maybe decrease it during certain traffic conditions. So aside from that, we also received some pedestrian complaints in regard to pedestrian safety at the intersection. We reviewed the pedestrian crossing situation, found it to be in compliance with the permit. We offered some, not necessarily suggestions, but means of improving the intersection for pedestrian safety in our memo. And feel free, I'm not going to list all of them here. Basically, refreshing the crosswalk paint at the intersection, which I believe Nate has in the budget for this year, and is planning to install the piano-style crosswalks at that intersection so they're more visible. The pedestrian signal buttons are not out of compliance, but they're the older style, so we could upgrade to the newer style, which account for vision impaired folks through an audible system where it has an audible call to the button, allowing them to know where the button actually is. Then once they hit it, it sets a chirp or a tone when crossing is warranted and safe. So those two were the big ones. Additional lighting. There's no lighting on the east side of the intersection at this time, so that would enhance nighttime visibility and safety. And then installation of additional sidewalk, which is in the works as well with the school district. Thomas Holtzman is proposing to install sidewalk in front of their property along Town Road, and I believe the township is considering the same in front of this municipal building. So again, not necessarily recommendations because everything's per permit, but possibilities to improve pedestrian safety in that area.
Is this inside the PennDOT right away, or is it township right away?
It would be
PennDOT, so you'd have to go through a permitting process, right?
a modification.
Okay. And would that be the same case for the sidewalks or the walkways in the piano style?
Piano style
Road
maintenance,
kind of
you
thing.
wouldn't have to do permits, so they can go out and just do the crosswalks. They're already there. There's the old double stripe style, which isn't necessarily as visible as it could be. Thomas Holtzman is pushing their fence line back, so they're going to be out of the state right away with their sidewalk. I don't know that the township's going to have the ability to do that, so that would be likely an HOP.
Likely what?
A highway occupancy permit in
Oh,
an
okay.
HOP. Because the work would be inside the state right away, so you need the PennDOT's blessing. So, the report of findings is in your packet. I can take any questions you may have. Otherwise, again, everything is generally found to be compliant, and hopefully with the adaptive system, if anything, the situation improves. Certainly won't get worse.
Alex, did you look at the sidewalk along Crooked Hill Road? There is a sidewalk on Crooked Hill Road in the residential section, and then there's an office building at the corner, and there's no sidewalk from the end of the residential area to the corner.
Okay.
And I think realistically, if people are going to be crossing, they're probably not going to be crossing on the west side of the intersection because there's nothing to go to there.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're going to be crossing on the east side, and the access to that, you have to walk across a grassy area to get there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm familiar with the area. Again, it would need to be done through a land development plan if it were to be taken on by the owner or at their will, unless it was a deferred sidewalk when the land development plan was initially approved, or the township.
Yeah, I often wondered about that because they did put a sidewalk all the way along
On
Millstown Road.
Yeah.
And there is even a curb cut there at the intersection, but it didn't come around on the hillside.
Yep, I'm familiar with.
That's something we can look into, Betsy, to see if that was in the original plan and deferred.
Well, the board could still obligate a property owner, even outside the land development process, to install sidewalks. You're allowed to do that by the first-class township code. It's not commonly invoked because it's costly to the property owner, but if there's a recognized public safety hazard that you're trying to address, it certainly might make sense to do in this circumstance. We could look into
If we're
that.
upgrading the crosswalk there, we're expecting maybe more people to use it, or, as this time goes on, it'd be nice to have a sidewalk that gets to it along Crooked Hill.
Now, how far would that go up? All the way up to the stop sign? To the first stop sign? I can look at it.
I'm just talking about the half a block or whatever.
Right.
The residential along Crooked Hill up to Lincolnstown Road. Maybe 150 yards.
Yeah, a couple hundred feet.
Yeah.
Commissioner, we'll look into that. We'll see if we can get something together for you too.
I think while we're at it, it'd be good to try to get that done.
So for the various suggestions in this, I'll get to you a second, Chief. What's required? I know that the signalization is going to be wrapped up in the ongoing project, signalization changes, but.
Nothing's required. Everything's per PennDOT permit. So everything is kosher with permit requirements currently.
Right, but in terms of authorizing action by this board to have it done, what are the next steps?
We're not looking for any action from the board. This was really just an informational item. As Alex pointed out, we're planning on doing thermoplastic in the crosswalks. I would say if there was interest in the board in doing some of the pedestrian and push button upgrades that Mr. Greenlee was referring to, that's probably a capital project that we want to budget for. They're not, I mean, they're not expensive to do an intersection or two here and there, but they're not really cheap either. And I don't think they're liquid fuels eligible.
Yeah. We looked, Eric Stone provided me with the general cost. He said about $1,200 per push button, and there's 8 at that intersection.
So, you know, that might be something, if there's an interest in exploring, we would talk about during the capital planning process for next year.
I'm looking at this on Google Maps, and there's no sidewalk on Crooked Hill Road either, where the gas station is.
Right.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, on the east side, there's a sidewalk on the Holston side of the street.
no, go across the street, on the other side of Lingostown Road.
Oh, yeah, there's none at the gas station.
Correct.
That's right.
Not that you need one there, but there is a crosswalk that goes across Lingostown, and then that's where the grass are.
You might want to put it like a refuge area in there if you did anything, like pedestrian refuge area.
The sidewalk there, no?
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, Chief, did you want to add something?
Quick question, yes, thanks, Mr. President. Alex, I know it wasn't under the scope of this particular study, I don't believe, but one of the things that comes to me at times, and I know has over the years to the board, is when southbound traffic is going to hit, you know, the requirements to have a left turn signal. Because the traffic has, you know, there's been more and more building, and there's going to continue to be more and more building back here. And as someone that makes that left turn a lot, it backs up, and then you got the conflict with the northbound traffic. I've got to think we're getting very close to hitting the permitting for that left turn signal.
Yep, I'll check with Eric, see what the warrant would be for a signalized left turn.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'm not going to go flashing yellow arrow. All you engineers love flashing yellow arrows.
They're everywhere now, all of a sudden, overnight.
Yeah.
Does that mean they go faster?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, no. So yeah, if there's no more questions on that one, kick into the schoolhouse.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, we were tasked to perform a traffic study in regard to speed along Schoolhouse Lane, specific to the 3400 block. We did go out, reviewed the situation, found that speed was an issue. As such, we're recommending 2 additional speed humps be installed along the 3400 block of Schoolhouse Lane. The first being between Redwood Street and Mayflower. and the second between the addresses of 3418 and 3420, about 200 feet apart. They would be essentially the same style speed humps that are existing now further down Schoolhouse Lane. You recommend that the public, the residents, the affected residents are brought in and seek their approval to the desired degree of 70% prior to installation of the house.
When you say 70%, what do you mean?
Correct. So you're supposed to get the buy-in of the affected residents along that affected area of the street. Present it to them for review and comment and buy-in. The publication guidance is 70% buy-in from the affected residents prior to installing those.
Have we received a number of speeding complaints?
We were tasked to do the study based on a speed complaint. Chief, do you know
Yes.
how many? Or roughly?
I'm sure we do, yes.
Several.
And Alex, just for the board's sake, both of these proposed speed humps are west of Shell Street, correct?
Sure, yes.
Yes, so the one is Redwood Mayflower. Mayflower is essentially the alley that goes along the middle school fields that takes you to the middle school, just to give you a sense of context. So the one is between Redwood and there. The second one, I guess, Alex, is between Mayflower and, somewhere between Mayflower and Shell?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And 70% is the threshold on, from
Resident buy-in.
Fred, to answer your question, about 4 years ago, 5, the neighbors actually had a petition, and they were up in arms. They saw that speed humps were going in, but not in their neighborhood, and there's controversy. The people who don't live there don't want them. The people who live there are outraged that they don't have them. So it's complicated. But it's been going on for what, 4 years?
Correct. And I think there was a vehicle that overturned on that stretch.
a
correct?
couple.
Oh.
Yes.
Is that, and I did talk to one of the residents on the north side of
Yeah.
this, and he did come to the subdivision. So,
So what would be the nature of arriving at a 70% threshold? Would you have a town meeting? Would you?
No, I think,
Door to door.
yeah, door to door, to get the buy-in. I think you've done it all in Wood Street, I believe, as well.
Yeah, we do them in all the studies.
Right.
I can assign the officers to go door to door.
Okay, so you need a motion?
I think this one.
Yeah, there's a motion recommended in your packet to direct staff to do some surveying of the neighborhood to determine the support.
Moved by Commissioner Falo.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rothrock. Comments or questions?
And just as a clarification, how many attempts do you make at a house, you know? 'Cause I'm guessing that sometimes you don't talk to every single resident along the stretch, but you probably have to make a good faith effort, like is it like 3 times or, you know, I mean, if not, I was just curious how that works.
I don't know if it's prescribed.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I don't get.
There's probably,
I'm not sure. A couple of
Well,
times.
there's probably some
Yeah.
rules on that, all right.
Yeah, if we have to wait on the front porch, we'll get there.
and also I think I would assume, or I guess not everyone in that stretch even are aware of the mechanics of why or why not, you know? So it's one of those things that people reach out and say no because they just don't understand, don't care. But if they do know, then maybe they're okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a prescribed number of contacts that you need to attempt, but 70% is the general.
That's what you
That's
shoot.
great.
Right.
Are we putting a time limit on this? What time frame are we looking at?
That's completely up to the township. I don't, as far as the contact with the residents or implementing speed humps.
Yeah, come back with a recommendation based on township input,
Yes.
resident input.
I mean, it would be,
Probably next
The
month.
spring?
yeah,
No, I think we can can get there next month, depending on the availability of the department to
Mhm.
do the recon. Knock on doors. How long they have to wait on the front porch?
We got this.
Moving on. Tasers. Yeah.
No tasers
Been there,
required.
done that, we got
Yeah,
it.
we got this. Autopilot.
No tasers required.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Chief, Long Alley Traffic Studies report. Mr. G.
Sir. Some concerns were brought to the police department from Director Nate Brigadier from the Highway Department, inability to plow Long Alley, which is actually a township street. And for context, that is the street that runs north of Interstate 81 on the east side of 6th Street between the back of the houses and the railroad yard. Very tight, and certainly there was definitely an impediment to plowing, and it was also becoming a collection of abandoned vehicles and blight. So I think this was very timely. Our recommendation is essentially to post it from, again, more context for you, the back of Mr. G's, all the way up to essentially Abrams and Wheatley on the east side of Long Alley, so there's no parking.
Yep.
I think it's going to solve a couple of things for us. So it has my recommendation.
I'll make
Okay.
that motion.
All right, so the motion, just to clarify, is to set up a hearing for an ordinance and motion, or intention to adopt, is that right? That's correct. Is that okay, Jody?
Yep.
Okay, and who seconded?
I'll second.
I think Steve
Bookends. One and none. Okay,
Go for it.
all right. It's Mr. Napper. So it's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Ordinances, resolutions, contracts, etc. Resolution 2024-R05, resolution of Susquehanna Township, Dauphin County, adopting the capital area Greenbelt peer-to-peer grant final report. And we're looking for Mr. Richard Norford. Mr. Richard Norford, don't see him. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Mr. Norford, front and center, please.
It's usually the highlight of the meeting, so cheer up, guys. So, we have, I understand it's in your packet, is a study that the capital area Greenbelt, in addition to being the stellar bike ped coordinator for Susquehanna Township, I'm also a member of the board of directors of the capital area Greenbelt, but an active member for about 20 years. So, before I go into the resolution of adoption, I wanted to take just a few minutes, so I won't read the resolution, which you can read. I want to just tell you the history of the Greenbelt, which will take just a few minutes. The Greenbelt actually started, does anybody know what year it started? 1900 was when the capital area Greenbelt was actually started. Just imagine what Harrisburg looked like, or this area looked like at that point. Transportation was horses, and we know what horses do when they're walking around. And there were goats and pigs, and there were steel mills, and the area was growing because it was post-Civil War, but the city was a mess. And Board of Trade was inspired by a woman by the name of Myra Lloyd Dock. If you've ever ridden the Greenbelt, her house sits on Front Street where she was raised. She encouraged what turned out to be a capital area improvement program for the city of Harrisburg, which raised $1.1 million. Big money. Well, that's big money anytime, but it certainly was big money then. And they developed a program to pave the streets in Harrisburg. Not only were 2 paved streets, the water, the drinking water, came out of the Susquehanna River. That's kind of where it comes from now from most places, but that's also where the sewage went. The river was the lowest point, so the sewage ran into the river and the drinking water came back out, so it was pretty much a mess. So the city decided to take this $1.1 million, they paved the streets, they developed a water system, which originally was on City Island. Reservoir Park was developed, the highest point in the city, so the water runs downhill. They built the Dock Street Dam, which is still there. That backed up the river, so the river was a little bit deeper, but they dumped the sewage in the river just below the dam. The reason I'm telling you that story was at the same time they hired a landscape landscape architect. His name was Warren Manning, and Warren Manning was brought in to copy Central Park. He had worked with Frederick Olmsted with the development of Central Park, which is a lot like Hyde Park in London. And he had some roots, his family was here. And he said Harrisburg and the area is not large enough to support a city park. I mean, even in New York City, if you happen to live close to Central Park, it's very convenient. But Harrisburg was somewhat more spread out. So he said, why don't we take this network of parks that sits outside of the city limits. There was a park, Paxton Park was actually where the trolleys turned around. That's where President Lynch used to play when he was a kid because it was abandoned at that point. They developed Reservoir Park, again, because that's where the reservoir was and the water came from. And they purchased a land, Weiser's Swamp. Anybody ever been to Weiser Swamp? Has a new name, it's called Wildwood Park. So Manning's plan was to connect all of those with a tree-lined boulevard. Well, that didn't exactly happen that way, but that was the foundation of the capital area Greenbelt, which in the early 1900s was starting to be developed by the city and by the county. Some of the land was taken by eminent domain, some was donated by more wealthy citizens, and they built 12 miles of what is now the 18-mile loop of the capital area Greenbelt. It's actually 25 miles of Greenbelt. There's some spurs that go off of that. So a few things happened along the way that kept it from developing completely. One of those was World War I, the Spanish flu, the Depression, World War II, and the flight to the suburbs. So as people that used to live in the city and they wanted to get on this beautiful tree-lined boulevard, it was not a loop around the city, but just a stretch out basically to Paxton from downtown Harrisburg. Everybody had a car. I mean, when they started this, people didn't have cars. So, and the administration changed in the city government, it changed in the county government, but people lost interest in this trail. So it sat from about, let's say, 1925 to about 1985. And Paxton Borough was working with DCNR to identify the trees, and they kept seeing this abandoned roadway that was there where, again, President Lynch used to go and play, as did a lot of kids in that area. And they said, well, what is it? What's this? There's a roadway here. It runs up next to Spring Creek. So it was identified as what had been the start of the capital area Greenbelt some 50 or 60 years before. So the idea was spawned about 1990 to recreate this trail and complete the loop all the way around. So that was the goal in 1990. It took them 10 years to complete the loop because what used to be cornfields or whatever the agricultural venture was at the time was now subdivisions or shopping centers or whatever. So by using a lot of hard work and tenacity, a nonprofit was formed, a 501c3 called the Capital Area Greenbelt Association. That would basically have been the rekindling of what was started in 1900. So the Capital Area Greenbelt Association ran for many years without a board of directors. It was just a bunch of volunteers that kind of came and kept this going. But they did a really good job because they finished and got this completed. So at about the time that I became involved and moved to Pennsylvania and got active in the organization, the Greenbelt itself was stumbling a little bit because there was no board of directors. It was just a bunch of people that got together and went out and did great work. I mean, I'm sure some of you, all of you, have certainly seen the Greenbelt. We completed a strategic study plan about 2010, and we created a board of directors. We have each municipality has a representative seated on our board of directors. I sit on the board of directors. Doug, our Parks and Recs director, sits on our board, as well as the 5 different municipalities, which are the city of Harrisburg, Susquehanna Township, Pembroke Borough, Paxton Borough. It also runs through the property of the HAC, the Harrisburg Area Community College, as well as it cuts through the state hospital. So for the first time, since this organization was formed in 1990, all 5 municipalities 2 years ago, for the first time, sat down at one table to plan the strategy going forward with the Greenbelt. Do we need to hire staff? It's 100% volunteer. There's now 25 miles of Greenbelt trail, linear running. The largest percentage of it is now in Susquehanna Township, with the addition that is referred to as the Fort Hunter extension. So the Greenbelt, working with Susquehanna Township, employed the services of the Pennsylvania Environmental Council to come in and do a peer-to-peer study to find out what the Greenbelt Association was doing good, what we were doing bad, and what we needed to do. If you did the math, it's 124 years old, so we were trying to plan the next 124 years. I may still be bicycle riding, I might not be working with the township then, but that's the point. So you have a copy of that final plan in your package. It's a lot of reading. Maybe you'll understand it somewhat better and be clarified by my sharing that history with you tonight. But there is also a resolution that I asked you to adopt that final plan. So was that the highlight of the evening so far?
Yes.
Very informative, thank you.
Nice.
I enjoyed that.
Or so moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Paolona and seconded by Commissioner Hisarello. Any comments? It's a great project. Appreciate everything that all
No question.
No, I just want to say, Dick, thank you for all you do, the township, and of course, Geiger. And I'm really excited about this too, because good thing you mentioned about Central Park, because when I first saw it a couple of years ago, what came to my mind, we should really develop it like Central Park.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to say, from reading the plan, it seemed like they took a big picture, kind of the 5 recommendations are like kind of broad-based, like really important things to do, as opposed to getting into like a lot of micromanaging. It was like, these are the major things you really need to do to put your best foot forward, going into the future. So, I mean, I appreciate that in the report. Reading it, I tend to agree that seemed like a good approach, at least for now. I mean, after this is done and then you move forward, the more details may come later, I suppose.
Yeah, the end of the report on the last couple of pages, the recommendations that come forward, that's the meat, that's the real meat of the study, what do we need to do? I'm proud to be a part of the organization. It's really, truly a community asset. So we recently completed, we're board presented to you the bike ped plan. The capital area greenbelt figures very heavily into our bike ped plans as well as for the entire region. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dick. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, Mr. Wilkins. Okay. Next resolution, of Susquehanna Township, adopting the emergency operations plan of Dauphin County.
Thank you, Chief.
Good, sir.
President, I think I'm filling in with Brett for EMA Director Brett Least. Keep this simple. You do this every 2 years. I think you define these things as housekeeping. It's not reinventing the wheel. We're simply readopting the Dauphin County Emergency Operations Plan. It has my recommendation.
So moved. Second. Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 24-R07, establishing the redevelopment authority of Susquehanna Township. Ms. Madden.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. In your packet is a copy of the resolution. It was drafted by one of the members of Everett Siemens, who deals with these things frequently. I will note Section 3 of the resolution does allow the officials and employees, the appropriate officials and employees of the township to do what's necessary to get this recorded with the appropriate places and get board members appointed. So the recommendation would be that the board adopt this resolution.
Mr. President, I'll move for the adoption of the resolution establishing the redevelopment authority of Susquehanna Township.
I second.
Moved and seconded by Commissioner Cross. Sorry, Fred. Any comments or questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda, which contains 4 items. Appointment of Lieutenant Alex Wagner to the Pension Committee. Letter of support for an RCAP project for Capital Blue Cross. And all these should be in your packets as well. Permanent appointment of Officer Mike Martin and authorization to bid tree vitalize project. So is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Sanderson, seconded by Commissioner Cicero. Does anybody wish to discuss any or all of those items in the group?
If I may, Mr. President, on the fourth one, the tree vitalize project, this is a refresher in my mind, that we received a grant, I believe, early last year, Doug.
Right.
And those monies are being used to purchase these trees. This is the completion of that particular grant going forward. I guess it will be done this spring, I assume.
No, it'll be done this fall.
Oh, in the fall? Okay.
The reason for the request now is so I can get the project out to bid, we can award the contract, and it'll give time for the contractor to get the plant stock that we want.
And there's 5 parks that are
5 parks,
involved.
57 trees, and it was a $63,000 grant.
Any other questions or comments? Did this come up with the Shade Tree Commission?
It did.
It did, okay. In a favorable way?
Yes.
All right. Good deal. Anything else before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner comments? Who wants to comment?
I just have a brief comment. I'd like to thank Dick Clifford for standing up for bike riders at the planning commission meeting on Monday. There was a proposal regarding the Permati Brothers acquisition of the restaurant. And he made the point they're putting in 100 parking spaces, but where's the bike racks? And so he got a commitment from them. And I have to say, it's not something I thought of, Dick, but I was glad you were there to make your point. But thank you.
General question.
Yes.
About trees. I know we do annual tree plantings and we're just going, getting 56 trees. Any idea on how successful this project? We've been doing this for years, planting trees just like in the rights of ways, and do they survive? Are we doing something that's kind of crazy?
I think.
Are we insane?
Are we insane?
Yeah, banks,
Well,
trees,
That's a
and-
broad, that's a very generic question.
Not that anyone that keeps track of the, the 200 trees that we plant, and some people want them and some people don't. I'm just curious.
Well,
Andy Rooney did not.
I'll answer a different question.
If I could.
I think it's a valid concern, because the way that the township has historically administered the free tree program, it was basically just like you described, Commissioner. We receive the requests, we order them,
Yeah.
they get planted, usually by the Public Works Department, and then what happens to them after that is sort of up to the property owner to maintain. We have an obligation that property owners, maintain their shade trees in the tree lawn. We have one individual who inspects and then kind of complaint driven for the rest of them as they come in. So I think what we're going to try to do this year is approach it a little more strategically through a capital project. If we could put it out to bid and we could put some expectations on the firm that is selected to do the plantings, that they warranty the trees for a year.
Right, okay.
They do, regular watering and maintenance and that kind of thing. So at least we know, really in that first year of the trees being planted, that's when they're most vulnerable. And, not to say that they couldn't die or something happens to them after that, but more likely than not, after that warranty period expires, we should have a pretty high degree of confidence that those trees are going to survive.
Is this something that we could add to the GIS system as well?
You could, you want to do a tree inventory. That's typically done with handheld collectors and often by contract.
Yep.
Or I've done those in the past through internships with the Penn State Extension.
Yep.
Because it's not difficult. And then you create your shape file, you put it into your GIS database, and then you have that inventory that in theory you'll update with some regularity. It's probably something that we should look to do, especially as we get a little more aggressive with our street tree plantings and try to be a little bit more diligent of their their survival.
And maybe on top of the tree, so we know like we planted 20 trees this cycle, and the following year, are they still standing? And maybe, so have some sort of some metrics like, for the last 5 years we did 100 trees and 95 are surviving.
Yeah.
So we kind of have an easy to see whether it's successful, not successful.
Yeah.
What can we do?
What species survives and tends to survive in this climate?
Yeah, to do, yeah.
Palm trees.
Yeah.
Warm weather.
I know where your head's at.
Yep. I'm with you.
Any other commissioner comments? All right, you're
Motion to
done.
adjourn.
Bert? All right, motion's on the floor. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are out of here. Thank you.